The morning sun rose slowly over the quiet farmland as Amir walked across the field checking the damage after the earthquake that had shaken the valley during the night. His land had always been peaceful, and nothing strange had ever happened here, but the earthquake had changed everything as if the ground wanted to speak for the first time. Amir was a calm man who lived a simple life working the soil, caring for his animals, and keeping to himself, yet today he felt something different in the air. Like a hidden secret waiting for him, he moved across the cracked earth, noticing fallen branches, broken fences, and shifted soil, but nothing prepared him for what he saw near the old tree at the edge of his land. The ground had opened enough to reveal a narrow dark space like the mouth of a tunnel. The cracks stretched longer than any natural break he had seen, and he stepped closer with slow, careful movements. His heart beat steadier than usual as he crouched near the opening and felt a cold breeze rise from inside. The wind felt unnatural, as if it came from a place deeper than the earth itself. Amir asked himself how such a space could exist under his land, since he had lived here his whole life, and had never known anything beneath the soil except rocks and moisture. He leaned a little more, and called out, but his voice faded into the darkness like the tunnel swallowed the sound. He felt no answer, only the soft echo of his breath brushing the cold air inside. He stood again, looking around as if someone might tell him what to do, but he was alone on the wide damaged field. Still, he felt a strange pull toward the tunnel, not fear, but curiosity mixed with a quiet pressure, like he had waited years for this moment. Without knowing it, Amir went back to his house, took a small lantern, a rope, and a light shovel, then returned to the opening. His hands shook just a little, not from fear, but from the weight of the unknown. He wondered what could be inside. Maybe a natural cave, or old mine, or something left from people long gone. No one in the village had spoken of tunnels, though, and the land had always been normal. He lowered the lantern into the opening, and saw rough walls carved deeper than the quake had revealed. The lantern light moved gently across the shapes, and it surprised him that the walls looked touched by human hands, not shaped by nature. The marks were too smooth, even too careful. He took a long breath, climbed down with slow steps, and felt the ground shift under his boots. The air grew colder and heavier, and the sound around him changed, as if he had entered another world where nothing above could reach. He walked forward, lifting the lantern high to see the space better. The tunnel curved gently into the earth, and dust floated around him in thin clouds. He noticed old wooden supports buried in the soil, some broken, some still holding the shape of the tunnel, as if someone had built this long ago with tools and skill. Beyond the supports he saw something else, lines drawn across the walls forming patterns he did not recognize. They were simple but deliberate, like symbols from a forgotten time. Amir touched one symbol, feeling the rough surface, and wondered who had been here, and why would they leave something like this hidden under farmland. The tunnel grew wider as he walked deeper, and he heard faint sounds ahead that made him pause. It was not wind, not water, not animals. It was something soft, like a hum or whispering echo from far away. The sound pulled him onward, even though he did not understand it. He moved slowly, placing each step with care while thinking of his family, and hoping he was not walking into danger, but his curiosity refused to let him turn back. The air changed again, becoming warmer, and filled with a faint metallic smell that reminded him of old coins or tools. He felt a strange vibration under his boots, like the earth was moving, even though nothing around him shifted. Suddenly he reached a wider chamber carved into a perfect circle with a smooth floor and detailed walls. The symbols covered every side, glowing faintly, as if touched by unseen light. The hum grew stronger, filling the chamber like a silent song he could feel, but not hear clearly. In the center of the chamber lay an object half buried in dust and soil. It looked like a sealed metal container, long, narrow, and shaped like something meant to be hidden for a reason. Amir knelt beside it, brushing the dust away, and he felt the surface grow warmer under his hand, as if the object recognized his touch. He pulled back in shock, staring at it, while his heart raced faster than before. He knew this was no ordinary find, and whatever it was would change everything in his life, and maybe far beyond. His mind filled with questions, and a sudden sense of urgency whispered inside him, telling him that he had discovered something the world had forgotten for a long time. The chamber seemed to wait for his next move, the symbols glowing gently, like they were watching him. Amir stood slowly, feeling the weight of the moment heavier than the darkness around him. He knew he could not open the object here, not alone, and not without help. Still, he also knew that whatever he had discovered inside this ancient hidden chamber would soon shake not only his quiet life, but the entire nation when the truth came out. Amir climbed out of the tunnel with slow, steady steps, feeling the weight of what he had seen pressing against his thoughts like a silent storm waiting to break. He stood on the cracked soil breathing deeply as the morning light grew brighter around him, but the peaceful farm no longer felt peaceful. His land held a secret older than the village, older than any story he had ever heard. He looked toward the hills wondering how something like that chamber could exist without anyone knowing. Amir cleaned his hands, wiped the dust from his clothes, and walked toward his small house, but every part of him felt different now. He knew that he could not hide what he had found, and yet he feared what would happen if he told the wrong people. He made tea, sat quietly at his table, and stared at the steam rising as if the answers might appear in the air. He thought about the metal object, the warm surface, the glowing symbols, and the strange hum that filled the chamber. He tried to understand what it meant, but his mind found no clear picture, only a growing sense that his discovery was not meant for one person, but for everyone. Soon the sound of footsteps approached his house, and his friend Ollie stepped inside without knocking because he always did that. Ollie was loud, cheerful, and full of curiosity, and today his eyes went wide when he saw the worry in Amir. Ollie asked him what had happened, and Amir hesitated for a short moment before telling him everything, not leaving a single detail. Ollie listened without blinking, and when Amir finished, Ollie sat without speaking for a long moment, which was rare for him. Finally Ollie said they needed help, but they also needed to be careful because something hidden for so long might bring trouble if they trusted the wrong people. Amir agreed, and they decided to bring only one person first, a woman named Hannah who worked at the local museum and knew more about history than anyone they knew. She loved old stories and lost places, and had once told Amir that history lived under every footstep if one knew where to look. Amir and Ollie walked to her small office in the village, which was filled with maps, old tools, and books stacked on every surface. Hannah looked up from her desk as they entered, and she saw the serious look on both their faces. She asked what was going on, and Amir explained slowly, choosing each word with care. Hannah listened with full attention, her curiosity rising with every sentence. When he described the symbols, she stood, quickly grabbed her notebook, and said they must take her there without wasting any time. Soon the three walked across the damaged field toward the old tree, reaching the tunnel entrance, which still breathed cold air from the depth below. Hannah knelt near the edge, and shined her small flashlight inside. Her breath caught when she saw the carved walls, and she whispered that this was no ordinary discovery. This could be the work of an ancient group forgotten by modern history, perhaps something like a hidden civilization that once lived beneath the valley. She climbed down with steady hands while Amir and Ollie followed behind them. The lantern light moved across the walls, and Hannah stared at the markings, touching each symbol with care, as if greeting old friends. She said she had never seen symbols like these, but they felt purposeful, not random. She explained that many ancient groups used patterns to hide information or protect secrets. Hannah asked Amir to take them to the chamber, and they walked slowly through the tunnel until the air warmed, and the hum returned. Ollie felt uneasy hearing it for the first time, while Hannah stood in the center, turning in slow circles, studying every detail. She approached the metal object, and knelt beside it, brushing away more dust. Her face changed as she touched the warm surface because she sensed something powerful inside, not dangerous, but significant. She told them this was no tool, no weapon, and no simple relic. She believed it might be a container built for knowledge, or messages, something meant to stay hidden until the right person found it. Amir felt a strange pull in his heart when she said that because the object had warmed under his hand like it recognized him. Hannah examined the edges, and said it seemed designed to open only through a specific touch or pattern, maybe from someone connected to its origin. This made Ollie nervous, and he asked if they should try opening it, but Hannah stopped him, saying this needed experts and equipment before they attempted anything. She said they must report this to the National Research Center, because if they tried to open it without proper study they could damage something important or lose information that could change history. Amir felt fear rise because he did not want attention or trouble, but he knew she was right. Something like this belonged to the whole country, not just to him. They climbed out of the tunnel again, and Hannah made calls to trusted contacts, speaking in careful, vague words, not giving full details. She wanted the right people to come, not those who cared only about fame or money. By the afternoon, a small team of researchers arrived along with protective gear, tools, and scanning devices. They studied the entrance, the soil, and the structure while trying to keep everything quiet from the villagers who were already curious about the sudden activity. The lead researcher arrived in a simple suit with calm eyes and introduced himself as Daniel. He shook Amir's hand and thanked him for reporting the discovery, saying few people would do that willingly. Daniel examined the tunnel, asked Amir questions about the quake the moment he found the chamber, and every detail he could remember. His team placed sensors around the entrance and lowered cameras into the tunnel as they prepared to enter. Daniel insisted that Amir join them since he was The first person the chamber responded to and might be needed for the study. Amir hesitated, but agreed, knowing he could not walk away from something so important. They descended slowly again, but this time the tunnel felt different, filled with the energy of new eyes and new minds seeking answers. When they reached the chamber, the scientists spread out, measuring, recording, scanning the walls, noting every symbol. Daniel approached the metal object and asked Amir to touch it again. Amir placed his hand on the surface, and instantly the faint hum grew stronger, and the symbols across the chamber glowed brighter than before. The scientists stepped back in shock. Hannah covered her mouth, Ali whispered a quiet prayer, and Amir felt warmth travel up his arm into his chest, as if the object was waking up. Daniel looked at Amir with wide eyes, saying they might be standing before a discovery that would change the world, and that Amir's presence was somehow unlocking the beginning of a truth long buried under the earth. The moment the symbols glowed brighter, the chamber changed in a way no one expected. The warm light spread across the walls like flowing water, and for a second Amir felt as if the ground under him moved, even though his feet stayed steady. The researchers stepped back with surprise, while Daniel watched the metal object with growing fascination. The hum became clearer, rising gently like a distant song calling to someone who had finally returned. Amir felt the warmth in his arm fade slowly as the glow settled, but the room no longer felt silent. Instead it felt awake, aware, and almost welcoming, as if the chamber recognized the presence of people ready to learn its secret. Daniel asked Amir if he felt pain, and Amir said no, only a strange connection, like the object wanted to show something but waited for the right moment. Hannah stepped closer with her notebook, writing fast, though her hands shook since she had never imagined seeing something like this in her lifetime. Ali stood behind Amir, trying to stay brave, though every sound in the chamber made his heart jump, because this discovery was far beyond ordinary life. The scientists set up scanners around the metal object, and one device beeped softly, showing faint patterns inside the sealed container. Daniel explained that it was hollow but carried dense energy, unlike anything they had studied before. He suggested that whatever was inside was protected by layers built to survive time, earthquakes, and the collapse of history itself. Amir watched him with quiet concern, because it was clear that the object responded to him more than anyone else, and that thought made him feel both responsible and uneasy. He wondered how something so old could possibly know his touch. Daniel asked Amir to place his hand again, but only briefly, to see if the energy pattern changed. Amir hesitated, then stepped forward. The moment his hand touched the surface, the symbols on the wall glowed again, but this time something else happened. A thin line appeared across the top of the metal object, as if a hidden seam had awakened. Daniel signaled everyone to step back, while Amir quickly removed his hand. The glow faded again, but the seam remained visible. Hannah whispered that this meant the container was ready to open, but only through a controlled method. The scientists examined the seam carefully, shining lights and taking images, but none dared to force it open. Instead, Daniel called his team to bring special equipment designed to analyze ancient seals without damaging the interior. Amir stood near the chamber wall, watching them work, while thinking about how one small earthquake had led him to something that might rewrite the history of the land. He thought about his quiet life before the quake, and how simple everything had been until this hidden world appeared beneath his feet. Hours passed as the team continued studying every detail. When one device scanned the inside of the chamber, it detected something shocking. In the far wall behind the symbols, there appeared to be another layer beneath the carvings, something mechanical or structural that belonged to a far more advanced design than ancient tools. Daniel grew more amazed and told the team that they might be looking at a hidden system built to protect the container or guide the ones who discovered it. The thought that someone thousands of years ago had built something so advanced felt unbelievable, but the evidence stood right before them. Amir then asked Hannah what she thought, and she said she believed they had uncovered a lost society that had vanished before any written records were made. She also said that the glowing symbols suggested an understanding of energy and design that modern experts still struggled to achieve. Something felt mysterious yet purposeful in everything about the chamber, as if the builders had known their knowledge might vanish, and built this place to keep it alive. Daniel team prepared a small device that could gently test the seam without applying harmful pressure. When activated, the seam widened slightly, releasing a warm air that felt ancient. Amir stepped back as the room filled with a faint scent like old metal mixed with something sweet, almost like dried herbs. The object was opening, but not fully, just enough for the scientists to faintly see the inside. They shone a gentle light, and everyone leaned forward in silence. Through the small gap they saw something wrapped in layers of golden cloth. Amir's heart thumped loudly, and Hannah covered her mouth again, unable to believe her eyes. Daniel said they needed to stop now until they could move all equipment inside the chamber safely, He also said they must record every detail because discoveries like this could shift national identity, change school history, books, and inspire the world. Amir felt overwhelmed as the team exited the tunnel to gather stronger tools and better lighting. Once they left, Amir stayed behind for a moment, looking at the metal object, now breathing with faint warm air like a sleeping being ready to awaken. He felt a strange comfort near it, as if it trusted him or knew him, and he could not understand this feeling, but he did not fear it. He left the chamber and climbed out into the late afternoon sun where Ali waited with worry in his eyes. They walked together toward the house while teams prepared more machines for the next phase. The village had begun to talk, people wondering what was happening on the usually quiet farmland, but no one knew the true scale of the discovery. Amir tried to rest, but his mind replayed everything he had seen, wondering what the golden cloth meant and what lay hidden underneath it. That night Daniel and Hannah stayed near the tunnel, planning the next morning's steps. They agreed that the opening process must be slow, one layer at a time so nothing inside gets harmed. Hannah said she believed the container held something created by leaders or scholars from a forgotten civilization, maybe something they wanted to protect during a great danger that forced them to hide knowledge before disappearing. Amir listened quietly and asked if she thought the object was meant for the future. Hannah nodded, saying some civilizations believed that wisdom should be preserved for the right time, and maybe that time had come. Amir lay in bed after sunset, unable to sleep. The wind outside carried the faint scent of dust, and the ground felt like it still whispered from below. He felt a duty growing inside him, something he had never felt before, like he was part of a story larger than anything he had imagined. As the night grew quiet, Amir understood that tomorrow the object would reveal its secret, and when it did, the nation would no longer remain the same. He closed his eyes, knowing that morning would bring answers, but also questions that the world might not be ready to face, because the truth hidden under his land had only begun to rise toward the light. The next morning arrived with a heavy stillness over the valley, as if the land itself waited for the truth to rise from beneath it. Amir stepped outside and saw the research team already gathered near the tunnel, preparing equipment stronger than anything used before. Lights, cables, protective suits, scanners, and recording devices filled the area, while Daniel spoke with his team in careful, measured words, explaining the steps they would follow. Amir joined them, feeling the same nervous excitement he had felt since the first moment he saw the opening in the earth. Ali stood close by, offering quiet support, while Hannah walked around the site, checking every detail with steady hands. The group entered the tunnel together, moving through the cool air toward the chamber, which now looked brighter than yesterday because the symbols still carried a faint glow from the object. Awakening, the hum returned softly like a warm breath rising from the deep heart of the room. The scientists set up strong lamps around the chamber so the entire space shone evenly for their work. Daniel explained that they would now open the container layer by layer using controlled instruments designed to avoid contact with anything inside. Amir stood near the wall, but Daniel asked him to stay close, saying his presence might be needed again. The team gathered tools for cutting through ancient seals without breaking the structure, and Hannah took pictures of every step with her camera. The seam became wider as they worked, and warm air escaped gently, like the container had waited ages for this moment. Slowly, they revealed more of the golden cloth wrapped tightly around something long and carefully shaped. The cloth shimmered with a faint glow under the lamps, unlike any fabric the team had seen before. Daniel asked Amir to place his hand lightly on the side of the container again, only for a moment, to see if the energy responded. Amir stepped forward, hesitating only a second before placing his hand on the surface. The chamber brightened again, the symbols glowing with warm white light, and the seam fully unlocked, opening slowly on its own, as if a mere hand had given permission. The team stepped back in awe, watching the lid rise with silent, smooth motion, revealing the full shape of the object inside. Amir felt the warmth travel from his hand into his chest again, but he remained steady, breathing slowly. The golden cloth wrapped around the inner object moved slightly, as if stirred by the energy in the air, and Daniel lifted one corner with delicate care, revealing what lay beneath. Everyone leaned closer, expecting to see an ancient tool or scroll, but what appeared left them breathless. The object inside was a long crystal, a clear, smooth structure shaped like a tablet with symbols carved inside it. Rather than on its surface, the symbols floated as if suspended in light, not etched on by hand. The crystal pulsed gently with a soft glow reacting to the chamber around it. Hannah whispered that this was not only ancient, it was beyond anything known in human history, something created with knowledge far ahead of its time. The scientists recorded every angle, scanning the crystal and trying To understand its structure, Daniel noticed that the crystal responded only when Amir stood near it, like the energy inside recognized him. Amir stepped closer, and the symbols inside the crystal brightened, forming new shapes like they were rearranging into a message. Daniel asked Amir to touch it, but only gently. Amir reached out with trembling fingers and touched the surface. The crystal reacted instantly, filling the chamber with warm bright light. The hum grew into a steady tone, not loud but deep enough to vibrate through their bones. Everyone froze, unsure if they should move or wait. The symbols inside the crystal formed a pattern that looked like a star surrounded by flowing lines. Amir felt something enter his mind, not words, but a calm knowing, like the crystal shared a memory with him. The light softened, and the crystal returned to its gentle glow. Daniel asked hurried questions about what Amir felt, and Amir explained slowly that the crystal was showing him something about the past. He said it felt like a message from people who lived long before them, a warning or guidance left to protect the future. The researchers exchanged stunned looks while Hannah wiped tears from her eyes because she understood the depth of this discovery. She said that the crystal might hold knowledge from a civilization so advanced that their work survived the fall of time and nature. Ali whispered that maybe the crystal chose Amir to awaken after ages of silence. Daniel studied the scans and found that the crystal contained layers of information stored not on its surface but woven through its entire structure, like light woven into stone. He said this technology was more advanced than any modern storage system, and that if they could decode it, the country might unlock knowledge that could change science, medicine, energy, and history. Amir felt overwhelmed and stepped back, breathing slowly, trying to understand why the crystal reacted to him. Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder, saying, "Sometimes discoveries choose the ones who find them, not the other way around." The moment Daniel said this, the ground trembled lightly, not like the destructive quake before, but like a deep echo rising from the earth. The chamber lights flickered, and dust fell from the ceiling. As the crystal glowed brighter, Hannah shouted for the team to move back, but Amir stayed still, feeling the vibration pass through him. The tremor stopped suddenly, and the chamber returned to calm. Daniel studied his instruments and said the crystal might be reacting to the shift in pressure underground, or perhaps signaling that the knowledge it held must be removed safely. Amir asked what they would do now. Daniel said they needed to take the crystal to a secure research facility where experts from around the nation could study it properly, but they must transport it with extreme care because the light-based structure inside could be sensitive to movement. Hannah agreed and said that this discovery might become one of the most important events in the history of the country and possibly the world. They wrapped the crystal in its golden cloth again, placed it inside a protective case, and prepared to move it out of the tunnel. Amir carried the case with Daniel on one side and two researchers supporting them. The moment they reached the surface, the sunlight hit the cloth, and the faint glow intensified, like the crystal felt the open world again. News of the discovery spread quickly across the nation. Within hours, people gathered around screens. Reporters rushed to the village, and officials contacted Daniel asking for updates. Amir became the center of attention, though he never asked for it. The government announced that the hidden chamber was part of an unknown ancient civilization, and that the crystal held information that experts believed could reshape understanding of national heritage. Amir watched all this unfold with quiet humility, knowing he had simply followed his curiosity after the quake, yet deep inside he felt the same connection to the crystal, a quiet voice telling him that the discovery was not the end, but the beginning of something larger. For now, he stood on his land where the earth had opened to reveal a story buried for ages. The nation watched the unfolding mystery, while Amir understood that he had become part of a legacy far greater than anything he had imagined, and the truth hidden under his soil had risen at last, carrying hope, wonder, and a promise that the past still lived, waiting to guide the future.